Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Sweat Equity Podcast. I have the pleasure today of speaking to Henrik Almers, who is the CEO of Coaches Congress. Now, if you guys have followed my journey or the Octiv journey, you would know that Coaches Congress is really one of our anchor events at Octiv. Personally, to me, it's my favorite event every single time. It's one that I make sure to attend myself when I can. And yeah, I'm super excited to chat to Henrik because Coaches Congress has come a really long way. But before we get into that, Henrik, thank you so much for making the time and for being available to chat to me today. I'm really excited to unpack, the history of Coaches Congress and the future of Coaches Congress, and a little bit about yourself as well. So maybe if you don't mind just giving us a quick intro of who you are and how you got involved with Coaches Congress.
Hi, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here and great to see you again. It's been a long while.
You too.
It's been 3 weeks since I saw you live in Berlin. So I am Swedish. I'm not going to talk about my age, but I've stopped counting. I grew up in Sweden. I always wanted to become a diver and marine biologist. That was my dream. And so I did actually too. I always loved traveling. Been to over 70 countries in the world. Love to explore. I've always been into some type of fitness myself, and midlife crisis made me push a bit more, like a few years back, and we started a company for fitness travel. And that's how I met Per Mattsson, who's the founder of Coaches Congress, our business partner. And so he founded Coaches Congress 2014, I believe it was, so 11 years ago. And we came in as a sponsor with our travel company a couple of years after that, I believe 2016, the first time, 2017. And I managed to convince Per that we can do something bigger and better here. So that's basically how we got together. A little bit more about myself. I'm married to the COO of Coaches Congress, Heather, and she's Canadian. So
Heather is
I
a
love import.
machine. We know Heather
Exactly.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we left Sweden 8 years ago. So we moved to the sun. Not today though, but 300 plus days a year. We moved to Costa Blanca in Spain. We're together with our kids that also work within the event once with smaller things and so on. So yeah. So we run the company from Spain, and so that's a bit about us and the background there. Coaches Congress. Per started it as more of an informal gathering, a weekend of gym owners and coaches coming together to share knowledge, to network, to help each other. Very informal the first few years. 2018, we did our first event together. We moved it to Eleiko, the barbell company on the west coast of Sweden, and we invited some international guests, and that was the first time we actually swapped from Swedish to English as our language. And we had Jimmy Letchford coming in from CrossFit. He was the brand manager at those days. And James Fitzgerald from OPEX Fitness, where I've done my training actually as a coach. And a few more. And we had a really good event that year. And the year after we moved up to Stockholm. And so for the first 7-8 years, Coaches Congress was a Stockholm event only. Even if it grew and got better and better, it was always, a week in the year, more of a side gig, um, which we really enjoyed in many ways. And it went from just being networking and talking to become more of an educational event, which is actually the most important part for us, the educational side, to help gym owners and coaches from the what we call micro gyms, which is any type of coaching gyms, could be PT studios, CrossFit gyms, functional fitness gyms, strength and conditioning, um, the owners of them and their coaches to become better at what they do. Um, but yeah, so I think it was 2021 we started to discuss with Rickard, our man in Berlin. He's not there any longer, he's in Hamburg now, but he came with an idea, let's do this in Germany. And I believe that's when we met the first time. Is that possible?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
at
Yeah,
that.
100%.
Yep,
100%.
yep. And so we moved, not moved, but we did our first event in Berlin there, and we survived that. It was a bit of a different beast in many ways. And yeah, recently we did our third event in Berlin, and that's where we met a few weeks back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a I see us still as kind of a startup, even if we've been doing this, or Per at least have been doing this for 11 years. The last 2 3 years is actually when it's been taking off, as you said before.
Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of starting, well, we got to know each other since the first Berlin event. Obviously, Germany is a big focus for our business. And
Yep.
so this last one this year was the third one that I've been to in Germany. And I've got to witness how it's evolved and how it's grown over the last 3 years. And, like just being there and hearing feedback from people that are attending, as well as us from a sponsor, vendor point of view, it feels like it's just the beginning, which is awesome. So when you say it
Yeah.
still feels like a startup, it's similar to our business in that I always feel like a startup because we're always pushing for the next phase. Um, can you maybe talk a little bit around the growth that you've seen? Look, you've got Stockholm, you've got UK, you've got Germany, you're launching Australia, Spain. This is growing. And um, how have you managed to capture the interest of the market? Has it been completely organic, or have you put in extra digital marketing, or how has it kind of come about?
Yeah. Well, initially, the first, again, 7 8 years, it was purely organic. That there was no business plan, there was no 3 5 year plan, marketing plan, all of that. We basically went with the flow a little bit and had fun with it. And our um, our focus was always to have great content, more than be a fun event. To actually have really good keynote speakers, workshops, and so on. So I think that was what helped us, even if we didn't really have a great plan initially. When we started with Berlin, and then, as you pointed out, did London last year, coming back this year, um, going to Australia, to Wollongong, south of Sydney, etc. I think that started basically 2.5 3 years ago, because before that, no one was employed full time by Coaches
Yeah.
Congress, and now we're a small team, but we're people focusing solely on this. And
Mm.
obviously we have a much better plan, both short term, long term. Um, the digital marketing has definitely helped, and that's a steep learning curve. Um, we've always, had at least my opinion, had a like a good product, good event, or sometimes great to offer, but has been a bit hard to communicate, to get people to understand uh, both what we are, that we're not a CrossFit gathering. We're not. Yeah, exactly. To define and to tell people what we are. That's one of the challenges that we've been facing. And another one is obviously to get people to understand that they actually sometimes, they should come to an event like ours, that they need
Yeah.
to develop their own businesses. Um,
Yeah.
the gyms that we're talking about and the coaches too, they're very often passion driven, and we're not trying to get people to be, money grabbers or anything like that, but just have a profitable business that can um, survive over time and help as many people as possible. Um,
100%.
and
Yeah.
I think that, by having the great content from the start and then developing it, um, have great partners that have been helping us like Octiv, helping us to spread the word to gym owners and coaches. Um, we've come to a level now when we don't really have to fight that hard any longer.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we're now going into a different part of the world like Australia, that's going to be a little bit trickier. Um, I think, I hope not, but whereas in Europe, we now have our network of both sponsors, vendors, speakers, attendees. One of the great things is that we very often see people come. They come to London, and then they come to Stockholm, and then they come to Berlin. Same people, like
Yeah.
a tribe, right?
I was actually going to say that because it's awesome to see, of course, a lot of new faces, but also a lot of repeat faces. And it's a big commitment to come. They have to
Yeah,
travel, and it has cost involved, and you got to be away from your business and your family. And so, you're definitely doing something right in that people who attend want to come back. And also, what's also fascinating for me is that, we've met quite a few people at Coaches Congress that are looking to open a gym. They don't yet have a gym.
yeah, yeah,
And on the other side of that, we've met people that have got very successful gyms. And it's that whole mindset of never stop learning. Even if you're successful, there's always
yeah,
new ideas and gaining inspiration. But also those people being there are so valuable because they share in the networking sessions and the dinners and everything. They share their knowledge as well. And
for
I've
sure.
been a part of this, and I've seen like knowledge being shared freely, which is so nice to see because in some cases, business owners don't want to share what they call their IP because it's like
Yeah,
they've worked hard to build it. But it's been awesome to see the like generosity in the sharing of experiences and knowledge and so on. So it's really cool. In terms of like Australia, you know, I think going into a new market is hard at the best of times. Um, but it definitely helps to have built the experience that you've helped in Europe, you know, going into a
for
new
sure.
market, knowing, yeah. Um, in terms of kind of you becoming a part of Coaches Congress and like you say, building your team and so on, um, you're operating it from Spain. Do you find any challenges in terms of, you're building a business that is operating in multiple countries and locales around the world? What are your main challenges there? Because I'm trying to do the same thing myself.
Exactly. Yeah, no, there are definitely some challenges and some surprises coming up along the way. Um, within the EU, and now we're talking Germany and Sweden so far, because England is obviously not a part of it. That's the easy part. But still, we realize now once we started to run the event um, from our Swedish company, we had to register for tax for VAT in each country, which is
Yes.
a very interesting and very expensive and time-consuming effort. So we've done that in Germany and in the UK, and I just started the process for Australia, which seems to be pretty straightforward. But You never know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that and we know that we need to do that for Spain, that we were going to launch for next year too. So that is a big one, and
Mm,
and also really boring. But I think the fact
mm,
that we are a very well organized and very lean, small operation, we're not afraid of doing these things. We're not afraid of the admin side of things. We've done that in the travel industry before. Um,
mm.
but that is definitely a challenge. Um, Time zones is one. I'm having early morning meetings with people from down under, and then late evening meetings with people from the west coast of the US. So you
Yeah.
probably have done the same thing many times, and so your work hours are not 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so that's more of a, trying to balance work life rather than anything.
Yeah.
Um, and to a certain extent, it's also a bit of cultural differences, obviously.
Of
Um,
course.
not a massive difference, but slight difference, and the wording in everything from contracts to the marketing has to be adjusted slightly. Um,
Yeah.
and then one that we see, that we're already working on, is the language barrier. Um,
Yes.
and people are asked me today, or and been asking many times, what do you want to go to Madrid for? Well, there are a few countries there with, well, first of all, we live we live in Spain, so we have firsthand experience from the language barrier, obviously, and we also know
Mm.
that there are so many gym owners in France, in Spain, in Portugal, in Italy, that have they don't have the access to these type of events, or
Yeah.
not in the same scale, right?
Correct.
Um, and there are also, since we have become a pretty good business to business platform for companies like Octiv to meet gym owners, and vice versa, we also know that there are a lot of companies that would like to speak to these gym owners from Spain, from Italy, and so on. So, but that is going to be a challenge, and that's why we tested now at the Berlin event, um, to have simultaneous translation via AI from one stage to three languages. And it wasn't perfect, but the people that came from these countries, we did it for the people from France, Spain, and Italy. They really appreciated the effort. And for
Yeah.
some reason, they worked better with you, the South African, than the American speaking from the stage. But so that is one thing that we will continue to work on, and hopefully AI will develop a lot, and the software that we will be using will develop a lot in the next year. So
Absolutely.
that's another. Yeah,
It was fascinating to see that because I this was the first event that I've been at that has a real-time translation using AI. And obviously, we know how far AI has come in a very short time, so it's a very exciting opportunity. You could pretty much go to any market. And at the end of the day, I think people understand that it's not going to be perfect.
yeah, absolutely,
Languages have certain nuances that AI might miss or whatever. But at the end of the day, as long as they're getting the content and they're getting the information, that's what counts.
for sure. Yeah, no, we 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 know that there are things that we need to develop on that side, but our event in Spain will be in April next year. So we hope that a lot of things have improved by then, and we also need to coach the speakers even more to speak a little bit slower and to pause. And I think that's where you come in. We have to come. We
Yeah.
have to have you back.
I was worried about the South African accent not working out, so I'm delighted to hear that it worked out well.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a
yeah,
top
I'd
notch.
love to come back, of course. In terms of, the need that's in the market for an event like Coaches Congress, I understand the need very well. Um, we work with gyms all over the world, and we can see, gym owners are hungry for this kind of content. Everyone's
Yeah.
trying to level up, and the industry is leveling up, in general. So I think like the work that you guys are doing is really incredible. And at the same time, you've got some really big names that kind of headline these events, like Matt Fraser and Rish Froning, and these people that, before it felt like they would be untouchable. Like, I want to just ask you about how do you make these things happen? So Matt Fraser, for example, I'm sure he gets requests from everyone around the world that they want him to come and, visit and speak and so on. Um, First of all, I commend you on the mindset of, putting it out there and believing it's possible. But how do you go about it?
You forgot one famous name there, Mark Fawzy. He's also at our event. Yeah, no, going back only like 3 years, it was extremely hard to even get an answer, to get a reply to from any of these guys. First of all, they didn't know who we were, what we did. And I think one of the main reasons why we've been able to attract them is obviously that we've been developing our educational side, the networking, people meeting people, but also the business to business side. That there is both an opportunity for them to deliver keynotes, to add value, but actually there is a business side of it as well.
Yeah,
And the people that you mentioned before, their organizations, their brands, they are um, offering affiliate programming, for instance, and other type of products. And
yeah,
so we have along the way, through recommendations and yeah, hard work, knocking on doors and um, elevator pitches at events and so on, been able to gain people's trust. We have, I think, one thing that they all said is that we've actually always delivered on our promises, and I think that is extremely important in any type of business. Um,
yeah,
and um, and in that way, you get people to recommend you, to open doors for you, and so on. And um, but yeah, no, we're extremely happy about the fact that um, call them celebrities that they are interested and they want to come back. Um,
yeah,
Now they almost competing on who can be on the next one, which is great. Um,
yeah. It's a great problem to have.
yeah, absolutely. But on the other hand, we also have, like I said before, our focus is not on to have celebrities necessarily on stage. It's more the content, the the focus on being a great platform for speakers like yourself, for other people who wants to share the knowledge within both the business side and the coaching side. That is still the most important. Obviously, it helps to sell tickets to have well-known people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, of
and
course,
so it
it's a
will.
good it's a good way to get the attention of people,
Yeah,
but you're not taking your
absolutely.
eye off the content, the holistic content
No,
strategy.
never.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome. Something I've noticed that I think, can be a learning for any business is you guys, the organizers, pair, the founder, etc. You guys are always there in person, and like we like to say, like we're the first at breakfast and the last at the bar. In the evenings, and you guys are there giving it full power. Your wife is the COO. You've got your kids involved, and your kids are
Mhm.
helping out at the event. And it's just so
Yeah.
nice to see. And what it results in is that, like myself, for an example, we've got a real friendship going, which is
Yeah.
great. Over the years, we've seen each other at these events. Like, I know your family. I'm sure you know my family from social media. And you build a connection with people. And like as a business, that's what we are all about as well. Like building that solid personal connection. And you guys really do that. It would be different if you were sitting behind a booth somewhere and untouchable, or if Per was just remotely observing his event that he started. But it's really great to see like the personal interaction. And it's maybe a lesson for anyone listening, is just to never get too big to be there. Meet the people and build those relationships. Um,
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, this is a little bit off topic, but something that really impressed me was 3 years ago I met your son at the first event, and he's young. How old is he now?
He turned 16 in September, so 16 and a half, I guess.
So when I met him, he was probably 14 or just under
Yeah,
14. And
yeah,
it's so
exactly.
great to see that like he was working the event and you could see the passion,
Hmm.
he was helping out and so on. And Heather is there in full steam. What really impressed me was the fact that you guys had the Stockholm event and the Berlin event 2 weeks apart, and your whole family's involved pretty much. Um, which is exhausting. These events are as fun as they are. It's
Yeah,
exhausting. Even just to
absolutely.
attend, it takes it out of you. Yeah, so keep it up. It's really inspiring to see. Um,
Thank you.
Henrik, what is the vision for the event like in the long term?
We're We have one goal with each new event is to do it a few percent better each time. And I think we actually managed to do that. We have people that attended London in October, Stockholm in January, and then Berlin in February. And everyone is saying that, yeah, it's a little bit better. It's better. It's better. It's better. So that's
Yeah,
a very important thing, because if you do a little bit better job all the time and develop your systems, develop your marketing, everything, it becomes a better experience overall. So that
100%.
that's one thing that is extremely important, and that's obviously important in any type of business. Um,
Yeah,
when it comes to more long term, we're looking at, like I said before, Madrid for next year, and we should be able to announce that in the next month or so. We're
mm,
also talking to various people about an event in the US, which is another massive step into the unknown.
yeah,
And that will happen, most likely 2026, but you never know. So, but then there are other locations that could be of interest that people have approached us, or we see that we could make a difference if we would be in these places. And yeah, I mean, we're not stopping at 5 or 6 events. I think there is space or need for events like ours in more places. Could be maybe 10 events in 5 years' time. Um,
awesome.
and something like that is the way we look at it, for sure.
Awesome. I can't wait to witness it, and I want to be respectful of your time, Henrik. Thank you so much for joining us today. Is there
My
anything
pleasure.
before we wrap up? Is there anything that I haven't asked you or that we haven't spoken about that you would like to speak
The
about?
next event is in London, 4th, 5th of October. And the one in Australia is 23rd, 24th of October as well. And obviously, yeah, obviously, you can find us on coachescongress.com or our social media.
All your social media handles and website and everything in our show notes when we share the event.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, Henrik, thank you once again for your time. I really enjoyed the chat, and I can't wait to see you in London.
Thank you, my friend. Speak soon.
Chat soon. Cheers.